as are all things in Alaska. And as I was saying, so the short walks and hikes also here, just from the visitor centers. This is a little path right here, so very accessible. Visitor center's interesting, and there's a little path right there. This is just a 12-minute stroll or wheelchair accessible as well, right to the end of that. And that's a great view. You needn't go any farther. You have beautiful, really about the best view there, regardless. Or if you want, you can take this down to the waterfall right there in about 30 minutes or so. Okay, there's also Taku Glacier, southeast of Juneau, largely within the Tongass National Forest. There's the largest glacier in the Juneau ice field. Deepest and thickest alpine temperature, so that's above the tree line. And again, almost the same dimension, about 9,000 feet thick, and again, retreating due to climate change. And there she is. So we have carbon dioxide levels rising all the time, CO2 levels, greenhouse gases being reflected back from our atmosphere. About 50% is retained by the Earth, about 50% is emitted, but then that's being bounced back and trapped by greenhouse gases. So we have rising temperatures, and that's, of course, affecting these ice flows. Okay, let's talk a little bit about icebergs. Now, the term iceberg is a loose term. I might use it probably going through Endicott just because it's easier, but in fact, we probably won't be seeing actual icebergs. And this is why. So icebergs officially are higher than 15 feet above sea level. So they're quite large masses. We probably won't see anything of that size as we go through. Bergy bits are medium-sized ones, 3 to 15 feet. And growlers are the smallest, less than 3 feet. What we're going to see in there are primarily, sometimes bergy bits, usually growlers coming by. And really, each one's unique. I find them so interesting. I saw one time that looked like some kind of futuristic space car or something. It's really beautiful, really interesting. So do zoom in with your pro cameras or with your cell phone. Zoom in on those because each one's like a fingerprint, unique structure, unique colors. I find them very interesting as they're floating by. So keep an eye open for those. And you'll see that we, of course, slow the ship as we go through because it's true what they say in the tip of the iceberg. Only about 1/10 of the iceberg is visible above the sea line. 90% is below, so most of the mass is below, and they can create quite a lot of damage. So we're going to go through, of course, very, very carefully. Titanic iceberg. So I researched this quite a bit. Height above the water, 50 to 100 feet. Length, 200 to 400 feet. Now, they did know about watertight compartments at the time, and the Titanic had them. So the ship's divided into sections. That's why you had the watertight doors and things. Be very careful of those. By the way, I don't think they have them in the passenger areas, but if you ever encounter one, keep your distance because they're very strong and very heavy. Mechanized doors. But that way the ship can be segregated into compartments if there is a breach. The problem with the Titanic is that the iceberg cut a swath along the side, breached about 5 compartments, and at that point she was doomed. And this is an iceberg, I believe from my research, that was the culprit there. That's what survivors say. There's another one here, also a possibility, but I believe it's this one. So you can imagine the mass, if that's only 10%, 90% is above, below the sea level, that's a lot of weight right there. Here's another one for that. Daniel, I was sitting around last night with my wife, Beatrice, and we were wondering why icebergs sometimes appear blue. That's a good question. If you can help us with this, we'll be glad to have you over for dinner next week. Heck, we'll even be happy to give you $1,000 cash